Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, the book I'll be interpreting for you is Status Anxiety. The term status refers to a person's position in society, and status anxiety is our concern about our social standing. We worry about not aligning with the societal ideals of success, leading to a loss of dignity and respect. We fear that our current social status is too ordinary and won't allow us to stand out. This anxiety is omnipresent, regardless of whether we're thriving or facing challenges. Why do we feel anxiety about our status, and how can we alleviate this distress? This is the central focus of this book. The author of this book is the British intellectual Alain de Botton. De Botton graduated from the University of Cambridge and possesses a profound knowledge of philosophy. He has a wide-ranging interest in Western literature and art. We previously discussed his philosophy of consolation and the art of travel in our Hugo Award-winning book. In this book, de Botton meticulously analyzes modern society's status anxiety and explores ways to ease and release this anxiety from various perspectives, including philosophy, art, and politics. We will delve into the book's main content from 3 angles. 1. Why do people experience status anxiety, and why is it becoming increasingly prevalent today? 2. Why is contemporary status anxiety primarily centered on concerns about wealth? 3. How can we resolve this anxiety? Alright, let's dive into the first part and understand why people experience status anxiety. To some extent, feeling anxious about one's social status can be considered a luxury. In times of extreme poverty and hardship, few worry about their identity. Identity anxiety arises when basic needs are secure. As a society becomes more affluent, more individuals become ensnared by this anxiety. They seek prominent status and position, which can be seen as a form of affluenza. So, why do people desire prominent status? You might think the answer is obvious: fame, fortune. Why explain it? However, de Botton provides a somewhat unexpected response: love. He suggests that people pursue prominent social status as a foundational drive to gain the love of others. Money, fame, and influence are just manifestations of love or pathways to obtaining it, not ultimate goals. Here, love doesn't refer to intimate emotions between individuals but rather attention and regard. Gaining others' love means gaining their attention. People will notice our presence, remember our names, listen to our opinions, forgive our faults, and attend to our needs. Craving the attention and recognition of others is a fundamental psychological need. Adam Smith candidly wrote in his Theory of Moral Sentiments that the value we seek in all our actions is being noticed, cared for, sympathized with, praised, and supported by others. William James, the American psychologist, pointed out that the cruelest punishment one can inflict on someone is to give them freedom, let them wander in society, and yet utterly ignore them. When they appear, no one acknowledges them; when they speak, no one responds or pays attention. Let's ask ourselves, would a half-hearted compliment from a colleague make your entire morning better? Would unanswered messages or a call being hung up affect your mood negatively? De Botton uses a metaphor, likening ourselves to a leaking balloon that needs a constant infusion of others' love to maintain its shape. Others' neglect can easily burst this balloon. Most people receive unconditional love from their parents during childhood, but as we grow into society, we must strive for success to earn respect, attention, and admiration from others. This is because it's a hierarchical world, where one's status determines the warmth of human interaction. The saying goes, when you're poor, no one cares; when your father is in the mountains, you have distant relatives. When we rise, everyone welcomes us with smiles, but once we fall, people's interest wanes. In essence, our pursuit of better social status and the resulting anxiety stem from a deep-seated desire for others' love and attention. So, why is status anxiety more prevalent today than ever before? De Botton's answer is somewhat surprising. He says it's because human society has progressed, and the concept of equality has become widespread. Today, people believe in the equality of all human beings and everyone's right to pursue their desires. However, this notion is relatively new. Throughout much of history, the dominant idea in human society was inequality among people. For example, Christianity propagated that social hierarchy was unchangeable, reflecting the order of heaven. In such traditional societies, most people accepted social injustice. If you were born at the bottom, you had to endure it. Modernization changed everything. Modernization not only increased productivity but also fundamentally transformed social systems and introduced a new ideal, equality for all. People at the bottom of society, for the first time, realized they had a chance to climb the social pyramid, and they aspired to do so. Alexis de Tocqueville, the French thinker and author of Democracy in America, noticed this during his visit to the United States. He found that social equality had a significant impact on people's emotions and psychology. He wrote that in countries ruled by monarchy and aristocracy, people accepted inequality as unchangeable. However, in modern societies, even though people had better material lives, they could no longer enjoy the same spiritual tranquility that the lower classes of medieval societies had. This is a paradox of modernization. Today's society is much more equal than in the past, with theoretically equal opportunities for everyone to change their fate and gain success. However, in such a system, it's hard for people to escape the pursuit of status. Even if you're naturally indifferent to fame and fortune, society continually reminds you to strive, dream big, and boldly pursue your goals. From the early 19th century onwards, self-made success stories filled with losers began to circulate, loudly proclaiming that with determination, any change is possible. Media strongly promotes a culture of success, emphasizing the achievements and opinions of elites while implying that ordinary people's lives are mundane and dull. Yet, no matter the society, very few individuals can reach the pinnacle of the pyramid. Most people, despite putting in tremendous effort, cannot change their social status, leading to anxiety about having nothing and being nothing. Interestingly, those who do reach the top are also anxious because modern society is rapid and unpredictable. The system is characterized by uncertainty, and successful individuals worry about being overtaken or defeated by competitors. They might be even more anxious than ordinary people because the pain of gaining and then losing is greater than never gaining at all. However, mainstream culture today doesn't encourage people to lower their expectations or calmly accept their mediocrity. Instead, it fosters the imagination that everyone is climbing towards the peak of happiness, just one cliff away from enjoying legendary bliss. But the truth is, even when we reach the summit, we eventually return to the valley, trapped in anxiety and despair. Alright, let's pause here for a moment. The first part's content revolves around people's concern and pursuit of social identity. Essentially, it boils down to the desire for love and attention from others. In traditional hierarchical societies, people couldn't change their status, and along with modernization's advent and the spread of egalitarianism, more people desire upward mobility, leading to status anxiety. Next, Part 2. Let's examine a more specific issue. The anxiety surrounding people's identities today. Why is the focus always on material wealth? Why can't we control our desire for money? And our envy of the wealthy? First, it's essential to understand that in the history of human society, being wealthy didn't always mean having status. In different historical and cultural contexts, the admired standards varied. For example, in the Spartan society around 400 BC, the most revered figure was the chicken butcher, Zhao Yongshan. They abhorred commercial activities and luxurious living, while being passionate about killing enemies on the battlefield. Spartan warriors never used money. If they were seen earning in the market, it would be a great shame. In medieval Western society, the most respected individuals were Christian saints. These individuals abstained from material pleasures, struggled to control their desires, and emulated the teachings of Jesus Christ. For example, a highly respected saint named Saint Bernard was said to walk very slowly, his eyes fixed on the ground, to avoid accidentally stepping on ants, as ants were also considered God's creatures. In 18th to 19th century England, gentlemen were the most esteemed social group. Being a gentleman meant perfecting an attitude of leisurely elegance. Thus, frequent visits to the barber to maintain a good hairstyle were paramount in their daily lives. Another crucial aspect was learning to dance minuets. In 1751, Lord Chesterfield emphasized in a letter to his son the importance of dance skills, including graceful arm movements, how to extend one's hand, and how to elegantly put on or remove one's hat. In these three examples, the most esteemed social status had little to do with money, or none at all. Even in earlier Western societies, The wealthy, though affluent, did not enjoy high status. Westerners generally believed that different classes were essential components of society, and they all depended on each other. Peasants at the bottom of society, despite their poverty, were the creators of social wealth and deserved respect, while the rich obtained their wealth through exploiting the poor, leading to their decadence and corruption. The earliest to say this was the French Enlightenment thinker Rousseau. Rousseau pointed out that those in power initially gained their status by robbing and plundering. 100 years after Rousseau's statement, Marx gave this idea new vitality, asserting that capitalism itself was an exploitative mechanism. Capitalists profited by appropriating surplus value from workers, and the term profit was just a euphemism for theft. So why, in modern society, did wealth and status become intertwined? Durkheim believed that, starting in the 18th century, three new ideas emerged and, by the 20th century, became the mainstream notions in the business society, shifting people's perceptions and attitudes toward the poor and the rich. The first new idea was that it's the wealthy, not the poor, who truly benefit society. In 1723, a London-based internist named Mandeville published a pamphlet titled The Fable of the Bees, which argued that evil individuals contributed to the common good. The pamphlet stated that a person's worth should not be measured by their soul, but by their impact on others. According to this standard, the contributions and influence of the wealthy on society far exceeded those of the lower classes. At that time, Mandeville's views were revolutionary. But nearly all 18th century and subsequent economists and politicians accepted this perspective. The most influential among them was Adam Smith, the primary founder of economics. In his book, The Wealth of Nations, Smith pointed out that the continuous expansion of society's wealth depended on the ambition and perseverance of entrepreneurs and traders. If entrepreneurs were likened to big fish and workers to small fish, the big fish weren't eating the small fish. Instead, they were providing jobs by spending money, helping the small fish. In this rhetoric, the wealthy transformed from near villains into heroic figures. Their extravagant lifestyles were portrayed as contributing to the welfare of society, a selfless endeavor. Next is the second new idea, which argued that the wealthy weren't rich because they were greedy or shameless, but because they were talented and capable. The emergence of this perspective was related to the growing idea of equality in the traditional society. In traditional societies, one's position was determined by lineage and family origins. However, the 18th century concept of equality replaced the aristocratic system with an elite one. People gradually began to believe that a person's abilities could affect or determine their position in society. This recognition, in turn, bestowed a moral meaning upon wealth, making it a symbol of a person's goodness and talent. The rich weren't just wealthy, they were better than others. This allowed money to become not only a means to an end but an end in itself. The American economist Thorstein Veblen summed it up well, saying that in a commercial society, any view that insists a person can be moral while still being poor has no market. No matter how little one cares about wealth, they still feel the urgent need to accumulate and flaunt it. Or else they'll be overwhelmed by anxiety, feeling that they deserve blame. The last new idea turned the spotlight on the poor. When the rich were glorified as creators of social wealth and capable, successful individuals, the poor were seen as failures in the competition. They were poor because they were foolish and incapable. According to this logic, the rich not only didn't need to feel guilty about their luxurious lifestyles, but they also didn't have to offer any help or sympathy to the poor. For example, American industrialist Carnegie stated in his autobiography that charity was meaningless, because charitable money would only end up in the hands of drunkards and idlers, causing harm to those around them. He believed that those truly in need rarely asked for help, and those truly valuable individuals would never seek assistance. The social Darwinism advocating the survival of the fittest went further to suggest that the poor had failed in the competition, making them the weak. The best way to treat the weak was to eliminate them. so they wouldn't drag down the overall quality of humanity. Because of these three new ideas, people's attitudes toward the poor and the rich underwent substantial changes. Everyone wanted to become wealthier. And poverty became a source of shame. A symbol of foolishness or failure. You might wonder why these ideas, favoring the wealthy, became the dominant values of today's society. To answer that, we must turn to a famous quote by Marx, who said that the dominant ideas of every age are the ideas of the ruling class. In a society controlled by the landowning class, social hierarchy and inherited status were considered natural. Landowners needed to maintain their upper-class positions through land ownership and hereditary systems. In a capitalist society ruled by capitalists, wealth became the symbol of success. And concepts like the entrepreneurial spirit and materialism essentially served the capitalists. From this perspective, our desire for wealth and our anxiety about identity are surface manifestations of the dominance of capitalist ideology. Okay, let's summarize the content of Part 2 briefly. In different historical and cultural contexts, the criteria for esteemed social status varied. In modern commercial society, new ideas favoring the capitalist perspective. In the following third part, let's explore how to alleviate identity anxiety. Diode suggests there are several good ways to do this. Firstly, we can learn from philosophers who, since ancient Greek times, have remained unswayed by identity anxiety. They faced honor and disgrace with equanimity, often leaving behind fascinating stories. For instance, when Socrates saw a group of people parading with gold and jewels in Athens, he exclaimed, "Look at all these things I don't want." When Alexander the Great visited the philosopher Diogenes and offered to help him, Diogenes replied, "Yes, if you can move out of my sunlight," highlighting his indifference to wealth. The philosopher's secret was their possession of a powerful tool called reason. They analyzed others' viewpoints rationally, exposing the confusion and errors often present in popular opinions. German philosopher Schopenhauer advised young people not to care too much about others and to embrace solitude because people's characters are often flawed or mundane. Some conventional opinions, according to French philosopher Chateaubriand, are deeply flawed and best ignored. He argued that public opinion, the worst among all viewpoints, relies on intuition, emotions, and customs rather than rational analysis. Thus, widely held beliefs are often shallow and biased. Art can also help alleviate identity anxiety by fostering empathy, breaking stereotypes, and revealing the flaws of revered figures. Satirical cartoons, for example, expose the less admirable sides of influential individuals. When Napoleon became emperor, a cartoon depicted him with arrogance, leading a group of flatterers and prisoners. True art challenges simplistic ethical teachings, igniting sensitivity, aiding understanding of human complexity, and healing through empathy. Delightfully, it can combat concerns about wealth, especially through bohemian art movements. Dadaism, for instance, used absurdity to mock the superficiality of the upper class. Another effective way to ease identity anxiety is contemplating death. When we assume our time is limited, we realize the insignificance of others' opinions and the urgency of pursuing our true desires. Even considering the deaths of those we envy can bring solace, as death ultimately levels all distinctions. This approach, whether from a Christian ethical perspective or Chinese philosophical wisdom, helps us face life's changes and dilemmas with tranquility, acknowledging the transitory nature of our concerns in the grand scheme of things. Sure, here's the translation of the provided content. Alright, let's summarize the content of the third part. Philosophy, art, and contemplating death can all help us alleviate and release identity anxiety. Philosophy allows us to approach others' viewpoints rationally, art helps us break free from stereotypical identities, and thinking about death can reveal our innermost desired way of life. With that said, the main content of this book is mostly covered. However, Diode has two small reminders. The first reminder is that, despite being unpleasant, identity anxiety can have some positive effects. There's a saying that goes, "Only those who are anxious can succeed," which has some truth to it. Feeling anxious about our identity can motivate us to fully utilize our talents. Diode's second reminder is that, no matter how hard we try, it's difficult to completely eliminate identity anxiety. Nevertheless, discussing and understanding identity anxiety is somewhat akin to needing a weather forecast. A forecast for a heavy rainstorm won't prevent the rain, but it provides information about its source, intensity, and expected end time, helping us be better prepared in the face of the disaster. Similarly, understanding identity anxiety won't prevent it, but it allows us to comprehend what's happening and how to cope. Starting from this understanding, we can work to change and challenge the sources of identity anxiety, thus building a better world. Alright, this book has now explained identity anxiety up to this point. Congratulations on finishing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom with practicality to achieve our financial goals and create a brighter future. Thank you all, and goodbye.